Okay, so this is our final retreat. I'm really excited to have the chance to share this practice with you for this month. As you know, our theme was transitions. And so for this practice, I wanted to focus on the idea of finding those touch points, those places of stability and consistency while everything else is moving around you and everything else is changing. And so throughout the practice, I will encourage you to, if I remember to, to check back into all of the places where you are grounded and where you are still in contact with the immovable. Because I think that that's a lovely way to remind ourselves that as things are changing around us, there's still things in our life that we can anchor to and feel stabilized by. So, with all that in mind, we are going to start standing at the short front edge of the mat. Let me move this out of the way. Where is this thing? It's just hanging down. It's supposed to be clipped to me. Okay. So we're in mountain pose. Our feet are about hips width apart, toes pointing straight forward. Arms are by our sides. As we start the practice, notice this first place where you are stable and in contact with the ground. So notice your toes, the balls of your feet, the outer edges of your feet, and your heels. Then bring your attention to your breath, this constant companion. And finally, your attention comes to your heart. If at any point during the practice your mind wanders off, which is the most human thing, just bring your attention back to the places where you're in contact with the ground, your breath, and your heart. Now we'll begin to move. Begin to twist from side to side, allowing your arms to fly through the air freely. Notice how it feels to have this wind that you're creating through your movement pass over your hands. And even in that, can you still keep your attention at your feet and the sensations that you are experiencing there? Begin to slow down your twisting. Begin to make the twisting smaller, slow and small. Until eventually you're still. If your attention has wandered away from your feet, bring your attention back there. Drop your right ear to your right shoulder. And then drop your right shoulder down towards your right hip. Bring your right shoulder up. And then finally, your right ear. We'll switch to the other side. Left ear comes to left shoulder. Then left shoulder drops down to the left. Come back up. Let your head be last to come up. Once again, right ear to right shoulder drops down. Come back up. Your head is last. Drop your head to the left. Drop your shoulder to the left. Come back up through center. Continue waving from side to side, letting your head be the last thing to come up and the last thing to go down. So you're kind of waving in the wind. The next time you find yourself up through center, stay there. Drop your chin to your chest. Bend your knees and then round forward. Kind of in this cat position, standing. Slowly round back up. Tip your head back. Look up. Chin comes back to your chest. Round forward. Come back up. Tip your chin back. Final time, chin comes to your chest. Round forward. Slowly, as slow as you can, come back up to standing. Straighten your legs. Walk your feet out wider than hips width. So they're just probably a little bit less wide than the width of your mat, but you're not all the way out. Bend your knees. Right ear comes to your right shoulder drops down. Then you'll circle forward, circle to the left, circle back, and then back over to the right. Continue circling around your hips, around your stable feet at your own pace. See how freely you can allow your arms to hang. And as your upper body is moving freely, take note of the stability in your feet and in your legs. And change the direction of your circles. Ooh, little back crack there. The next time you find your body forward, come all the way down into a forward fold with your knees bent as much as you'd like or as straight as you'd like. Draw your chin in towards your chest. Walk your feet out as wide as you need to in order for your fingertips or the palms of your hands to come down to the mat. Place your left hand at the center of the mat, so just about underneath your nose. Bend your left knee, and then reach your right arm up, so you're twisting your chest open to the right. Which parts of your body are now in contact with the ground? Straighten your left knee. Bring your right hand down and let it replace your left hand at the center top edge of your mat. Bend your right knee and lift your left arm, twisting open to the left. Once again, notice your hand in contact with the ground and your feet. Straighten your right knee. Bring your left hand down. So now both hands are on the floor. Turn your toes in and your heels out. And notice how that changes where you feel the stretch in your legs. Maybe it changes where you feel it in your hips or your back. Now turn your heels in and your toes out. And notice what this changes for you. Turn your toes forward. And then walk your feet together so they're either hips width apart or closer. Bend your knees. Bring your torso up as if you were sitting in a chair. And then reach your arms either forward or up overhead. What are you noticing in your toes? Are they lifting up? Are they gripping the ground? If either is the case, see if you can allow them to relax. Where might you have to shift your weight in order for that to happen? Straighten your legs. Reach your arms up if they're not up overhead. Lift your heels and come onto the balls of your feet on your tippy toes. Slowly bend your knees. Keep your heels lifted. Then lower your heels. Knees are still bent. Release your arms down to come into a forward fold with your knees bent. Step your left foot back. Straighten your front knee as much as feels comfortable to you. So you're in this kind of a pyramid setup. So the front foot, the toes are pointing forward. And for the back foot, the toes can be pointing forward. But they can also be pointing at a 45-degree angle. Play with it and see what feels best to you. Your hands, your fingertips can either be tented on the outside of your foot. Maybe you have blocks that you're using. Or you can rest your hands on your shin and you would bring a slight bend to that front knee. Check in with your hips. Can you send your right hip back and send your left hip forward? So they're just about squared off. If your hands are not on the floor, bring them to the floor. And if your back toes are at a 45-degree angle, point them forward. Then slowly slide your back foot back as you bend your front knee so that you're coming down into a low lunge with your knee lifted. Lovely. Lower your back knee. Uncurl your back toes. Notice the top of your back foot now in contact with the floor. Your fingers or your hands are in contact with the floor. And your front foot is in contact with the floor. And I forgot about your knee. Your knee is also in contact with the floor, that back knee. Press into your front foot, your back knee, and the top of your back foot to bring your torso up. So your hands are now off the floor. Maybe they're dangling by your side. Maybe they're on your hips. Circle your arms up overhead. Notice how that changes what you're feeling in your hips, the front of your thigh. Circle your arms behind you to interlace your fingers behind your back. Bring your shoulder blades together. Release your hands and bring them back to your front foot, or on either sides of your front foot. Curl your back toes under, lift your back knee. This is where it gets interesting. There's lots of different ways to come back into a forward fold. You can slide that back foot back or forward a little bit and kind of rock your weight back as you bend the back knee and then kind of propel yourself forward, or you can just shimmy your way up there, whatever feels good. So we're back in a forward fold. Once again, bend your knees. Generous bend. Bring your torso up. Reach your arms forward or up overhead. Slowly straighten your legs. If your arms aren't up overhead, reach them up overhead. Lift your heels. Come onto the balls of your feet. Slowly, with your heels still lifted, bend your knees. Then lower your heels. Forward fold, knees are still bent. Step your right foot back as you straighten your left knee as much as you'd like. Once again, play with where that back foot wants to be pointed. Maybe at 45 degrees, maybe straight forward. And you can also play with the distance of your stance. Sometimes it feels nice to bring it in a little closer. Sometimes it feels good to bring it back further. If your back toes are pointed at 45 degrees, point them forward as you bend your front knee and slide your back foot back to make your way into a low lunge with your knee lifted. Then lower your back knee Uncurl your back toes. Notice your points of support, your hands, your front foot, your back knee, the top of your back foot. Press into your front foot, your back knee, the top of your back foot. Bring your torso up so your shoulders are just about over your hips. Then reach your arms up overhead. Circle your arms down and behind your back to interlace your fingers. Shoulder blades come together. Release your hands. Allow them to frame your front foot. Curl your back toes under. Lift your back knee. Set yourself up to come back into your forward fold. So I'm going to have to slide this back foot forward, bend my back knee, and then step my front foot forward. This is our last time coming through this chair series. So for the last time, bend your knees. Bring your torso up, arms reach forward or up overhead. Bend just a little bit deeper, and then straighten your legs. Reach your arms up overhead if they're not there already. Lift your heels. Bend your knees. Go as low as you can. Lower your heels. Forward fold. Walk your feet out as wide as the mat. Heels are turned in, toes are turned out. Begin to bend your knees as you lower your hips to come in your variation of Malasana. So you can stay up with your elbows resting on your thighs. That requires, or not requires, but gives us an opportunity to explore the strength of our legs a bit more. Or you can lower your hips down. And that gives us a chance to feel maybe a bit more opening in our hips. Wherever you are, bring your attention to your feet. And then bring your attention to your breath. And finally, bring your attention to your heart. Bring your hands all the way down to the mat if they're not there. Place them behind you to support yourself as you take a seat on your mat. Bring your feet forward. Knees are bent. And you're leaning back on your hands. Fingertips are pointing towards your feet. Drop your knees from side to side for a gentle windshield wiper motion. As your legs and your feet move, what remains steady? What is providing the support for you now? The next time your knees are up through center, leave them there. Walk your hands forward. Walk your feet closer together. Allow the soles of your feet to come together as your knees separate and fall down towards the mat. So now we're in bound angle. Notice your hips in contact with the floor, the sides of your feet, maybe your ankles. Then begin to make circles with your torso around your hips. Change the direction of your circles. Come back to center. Take your hands to bring your knees together. Return the soles of your feet to the mat. Place your hands behind you. Lean back in preparation to lift your feet off the mat. And you can decide how high you'd like to lift your feet. Maybe they hover. Maybe they come up so your knees are just about in line with your shoulders. Maybe your legs are parallel with the floor. Maybe you play with walking your hands forward. Maybe they lift up so they're in line with your legs. There's lots of things we can do here. Slowly lower all the way down. Eee. Oh, that was shaky. Bend your knees. Soles of your feet are flat on the floor. They're about hips width apart. Your arms are down by your sides, palms down. Bring your attention first to your feet, then to your hips, to your upper back, the back of your head, your elbows, and the palms of your hand. Shift your attention to your breath. And on your next exhale, lift your hips, pressing firmly into the mat with your feet. And on your next inhale, lower your hips back down. On your exhale, lift. On your inhale, lower. Do that 3 more times at your own pace. Once you've completed your final round, lift your hips once again. And then begin to make circles with your hips. First in just one direction. Change the direction of your circles. And then lower your hips back down. Draw your knees into your chest and rock your hips and your knees from side to side. Come to center. Be still for a moment. Lower your left foot to the mat as you draw your right knee in closer to your chest. You can keep your left knee bent, or you can straighten it. Make circles with your right ankle. Change the direction. Be still. Breathe deeply. Draw your left knee in. So now you're hugging both knees in. Lower your right foot to the mat. Hug your left knee in closer. Decide if you would like to straighten your right leg or keep it bent. Begin to make circles with your left ankle. Then change the direction of your circles. Allow your foot and ankle to be still. Bring your right knee into your chest. Hug both knees in. Bring the soles of your feet to the mat. Walk your feet out as wide as the mat. Knees are still moving in towards each other. Rest both hands on your lower abdomen if that feels good to you. Otherwise, you can bring your hands to the mat. Bring your attention to the back of your head, your upper back, your elbows, your hips, the soles of your feet, and finally to your breath. If you think back to the start of our practice, how is your breath different, or maybe the same as it was the beginning of the practice? Straighten your legs. If your hands are resting on your body, bring your palms to the mat and turn your palms up towards the sky so the backs of your hands are resting on the mat. Rest here in our final resting pose of Shavasana. Breathe here. Begin to wiggle your toes. And wiggle your fingers. Rock your head from side to side. Reach your arms up overhead. Stretch. Then bend your knees and roll over to one side. Take your time. Press yourself up. And take a seat at the center of the mat. Allow your hands to rest on your knees or thighs, or maybe in your lap. On your next inhale, circle your arms up overhead, palms touch. Exhale, hands come to the center of your chest. Thumbs rest against your sternum. Thank yourself for taking this time to show up for yourself, to move, to breathe, and to be still. And I thank you for joining me in this practice. So we are going to move into our break. So we'll take about 15 minutes. And when we return, we will do some journaling and some sharing, some chatting. Enjoy these next 15 minutes. My pleasure. See you soon. All right, first journal prompt. I was feeling a little long-winded when I wrote these, so bear with me. All right, first up, as you navigate change, what are some of the things that remain steady and consistent in your life? What are your sources or examples of stability? So I'll give you about 7.5-ish minutes to answer this prompt. If I find that we need less time, then I will let you know. Yeah. have about 1 more minute, so if you have any final thoughts, start to wrap them up before we move on to our second prompt. And remember, you can always come back to these prompts. Okay, prompt number 2. As you reflect on the sources of stability and consistency in your life, take note of how your body feels. What sensations do you notice and where? What is the tone of your thoughts, the pace of your breathing, and the rate of your heart? We'll keep our time on this one pretty short, so you have about another minute. Time for number 3. How might you connect to those sources of stability and the sensations they elicit more often in your life? have one more minute with this question, and then we'll move on to our fourth and final question. Okay, final prompt. Now, this one is a long one. We often don't acknowledge the ways we show up for ourselves every day. Take a moment to express gratitude towards yourself for the ways you are caring for yourself as you handle change in your life. one more minute with this one. Okay, so I'm going to come back on screen. And we'll take a moment to share.